When I first watched Ratatouille as a kid, I didn't really get it. I thought the ending was kind of a cop-out since I expected Remy to cook this great, amazing dish, but at the advice of a friend when I was older, I took another look at this movie, and I was awestruck by how beautiful and insightful the film was, and how unusual the thesis or meaning of the film is when compared to a less critical mainstream film from a few years later, namely Zootopia. So today, I want to do something a little more abstract and talk about the worldview of Zootopia versus Ratatouille. Let's start with Zootopia. Zootopia is the more recent of these two films. It came out in 2016, and unlike Ratatouille, which made about $600 million worldwide, Zootopia passed $1 billion at the box office, so there's a greater possibility you saw it. But in case you need a refresher, Zootopia is a film about an anthropomorphic bunny who goes to the big city and tries to make their dream job happen despite their parents' and society's belief that they're just not cut out for this work and the big city is dangerous. But despite everything, our hero prevails and gets to live their dream job. Then there's Ratatouille, a film where an anthropomorphic rat goes to the big city and tries to make their dream job happen, despite their parents' and society's belief that they're just not cut out for this work and the big city is dangerous. But despite everything, our hero prevails, and oh, would you look at that, it's the same movie. On the surface, these films seem very similar, but in practice they act like opposites of one another. Take the slogan of Zootopia: anyone can be anything. Our protagonist, Judy Hopps, fundamentally believes that this line is absolutely true, and in the context of the story, it motivates her to pursue her dream of becoming a cop, and ignore any limitations put on her by being born as a bunny. The film treats this as a good thing, and presumably it wants the audience to take away the message that any dream you have can come true if you want it badly enough. Throughout the film, Judy and the audience learn that there are often more obstacles to our dreams than we imagine, but eventually Judy does fulfill her ambitions. Furthermore, she ultimately convinces Nick the fox, who early in the film says, "Everyone comes to Zootopia thinking they can be anything they want. Well, you can't. You can only be what you are." But by the end of the movie, Nick has adopted the same mantra as Judy with, "Anyone can be anything," and Nick joins Judy as a police officer. Now compare this to Ratatouille. This film also gives us a seemingly similar thesis statement in the form of Auguste Cousteau's line, "Anyone can cook." Like Judy, Remy the rat adopts this philosophy and it motivates him to try and become a chef. The difference here is the way that the meaning of Ratatouille is developed. Unlike Zootopia, where the message we're given at the start of the film remains fundamentally unchanged throughout the movie, Ratatouille is a film which shows us that if you take its message literally, it's fundamentally false. This is clarified by Anton Ego's amazing monologue later in the film. "In the past, I have made no secret of my disdain for Chef Cousteau's famous motto, 'Anyone can cook.' But I realize only now do I truly understand what he meant. Not everyone can become a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere." When you really think about this message, it's very different from Zootopia. Unlike Judy Hopps, Anton Ego is telling the audience that not everyone has the capacity to be great at what they want to be great at. Not everyone can be a great musician or painter. Some people are better suited to things than others, and no matter how hard you try, you may not be able to accomplish your specific goal. And this is seen throughout the film, in scenes like where Remy first tries to introduce his brother Emile to the idea of cooking by having him taste different food combinations. This scene illustrates for us that Emile doesn't have the talent to distinguish the kinds of things that Remy does. Or even more generally, you can look at Linguini, who, like Emile, lacks the ability to cook even though his father was the great Chef Cousteau. Remy is blessed with an aptitude that other people in Ratatouille could never achieve no matter how long or carefully they studied cooking. This is a radical line of thought for modern people that the filmmaker Brad Bird is presenting, because as a society we're given nothing but encouragement to follow our dreams even without any talent in an area we might have an interest in. Of course, Ratatouille is actually not the first time Brad Bird has presented this radical message. Pixar first invited Brad Bird to work with them on his project The Incredibles. The Incredibles is very similar to Ratatouille, where the overarching message of the film is that some people are genuinely born better or more talented than other people. What's crazy about The Incredibles is that Syndrome, the character who utilized his mind to level the playing field between him and superpowered people, is the villain. A Marvel or DC comic or movie often presents these kinds of characters who use technology to overcome those born more skilled than them as heroes like Iron Man or Batman. But Brad Bird uses Syndrome to drive home the message that some people are just better than others, and that's a good thing. As Syndrome says when he's revealing his master plan, "When everyone's super, no one will be." I think it's interesting that in the behind the scenes for The Incredibles, Brad Bird says,
"I did not come to Pixar to do a CG film. I was interested in coming to Pixar because they protected stories."
I could certainly see it being the case that if Brad Bird had presented a story like The Incredibles to another studio, they might have given him notes about scaling back dialogue like the exchange between Helen and Dash, when she says, everyone's special Dash, and Dash retorts, which is another way of saying no one is. Now, I'm not saying any of this to discourage you personally from trying to accomplish your goals or become better at what you do. What I am saying is that the meaning of Ratatouille and The Incredibles is a reversal of what Zootopia preaches, and I think that's a good thing. Modern people in modern society like to entertain the idea that everyone is born a blank slate without any starting buffs or skills that make them more capable people, even though no one really believes it. Ratatouille and The Incredibles presents what's really an older classical idea that some people are more gifted than others and will just have a more successful life. I think this is something worth reflecting on as we evaluate how we spend our time in this world. Not to discourage us, but to honestly look at ourselves and see what talents we have that we can develop. Additionally, I think it's kind of nice that if you think about Ratatouille as a parable or fable, it's a story of a protagonist trying to become human, in the best sense of adopting the human desires to turn everyday activities like eating into an art form. Remy is a rat, but he's a rat in a universe where rats have a reason and a will, and gifts that they can hone in more or less human-like ways, such as how Remy decides to stand upright rather than crawl on all fours. As Remy says, there's something about them, they don't just survive, they discover, they create. I mean, just look at what they do with food. I really appreciate lines like these that make me really love Ratatouille, and appreciate the work that all the writers and creators at Pixar did to bring this unique film together. Thanks for watching today's video. Usually I try and do more animations and fewer clips from the movies themselves, but I'm trying to do one of these videos every single month, and I knew I wouldn't get it done if I did my normal animations. If you enjoyed this video, hit the bell icon and subscribe, and you'll be notified whenever I make another video.